Welcome to the LMD Podiatry Podcast. Trust us to get back on your feet. Here's your host, Dr. Lauren DeBaccaroff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the LMD Podiatry Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Wolf, joined by your host, Dr. Lauren DeBaccaroff. Dr. Lauren, always a pleasure seeing you.
Always a pleasure.
So, there's a fungus among us, as I like to say. Topic of the discussion today is foot fungus. So, what is foot fungus, and how does it affect the feet?
Okay, so a lot of people, they see foot fungus, they see things, discoloration and flaking and weird stuff growing on their feet and their toenails, and they have no idea what it is. Fungus in general, it's a microorganism. Just like you can get pus and an infection from a bacteria, so fungus can also infect your body, but it's just a different species completely.
Okay.
There's yeast, mold, fungus, that's the type of things, just like when your bread goes moldy, that's a mold. It's a, yeast and mold. Those are, all in the family of fungus, right? So unfortunately, sometimes these things can land in your foot, in your toenails, in your foot. It could also be in your hands and other places in your body, but it's actually very common to have it appear on your feet.
Interesting. So I don't think I've encountered that, not yet anyway. But if I notice some strange mushrooms growing on my feet, I'm gonna have to. That'll be cause for concern. So
go ahead.
I was gonna say, no. How does it typically spread, and what ultimately causes it, and what are some preventative measures that people can take to ensure they don't get fungus on their feet?
So it happens from all fungus starts with moisture. Right?
Okay, that makes sense.
So when you have a moist environment, that actually starts giving a chance for fungus to grow. Okay. And then the reason why it's so typical in the foot is because feet are trapped inside shoes, or someone has sweaty feet, or you're wearing shoes without socks. And anytime you have a situation where you trap the moisture inside your shoe, then that becomes a breeding ground for the fungus to grow and spread. Now, you could also get infected from other places. It's very common for women to get fungal toenail infection from the nail salon because you share nail polish with thousands of people and nobody sterilizes the nail polish brush. Different things like that. You could also get it from, if you wear someone else's shoes that has fungus. So it does spread, but, you could catch it from anywhere. You could catch it from walking barefoot, on a mat, and a gym mat. And because, nobody cleans that. Like if you go to you go to karate, or you're doing yoga, and you're using someone else's mat, it's an infection. You can get infected from almost any surface. But then some people, if they have good hygiene, they don't get that. But, let's say I go do yoga, use the mat that someone else used that had fungus and they didn't clean it. And then all of a sudden I go to yoga and then I trap my foot inside a shoe. That little microorganism gets a chance to spread, and that's how I get infected. Just like different scenarios, a lot of people wonder, where is it coming from? Why did I get it? You could literally contract it from any surface, from the floor, walking barefoot, walking on a mat, yoga mat, gym mat, sharing a shower with other people that do have it from somewhere else, walking barefoot, even I have people who they go hiking barefoot, or they walk through water and mud. And again, that's when the moisture gets trapped, and that's the breeding ground for the fungus to grow.
So I've heard the term athlete's foot before. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's a type of fungus. What's the primary difference between something like athlete's foot and then something like you mentioned earlier, toenail fungus? Is it just a different strain of the virus? Or?
Yes. So they present, no, it's the same it's the same, fungus. It just presents differently on skin than it would on the toenails. So athlete's foot is when fungus appears on the bottom of your foot. Why is it called athlete's foot? Because a lot of athletes, they sweat in their foot. They're, and they're like, it's hot outside, they're playing basketball, whatever. And then the moisture gets trapped in their shoe. And then that's how they get the athlete's foot, which is fungus on the bottom, on the skin, on the bottom of their foot. And then toenail fungus is when you get fungus on the actual toenail. So they present differently. Fungus on the skin presents, you see this like flaky type of skin with circular patterns, and that's athlete's foot. And then when it's on the toenail, it's usually dark, thick, yellow, black nail. Sometimes it could be white, sometimes it could be, and there's a lot of times it's 100% fungus when patients have like this like crust appearance underneath their nail, and that's clinical diagnosis of fungus in your toenails. It just presents differently on the nail versus the skin.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
So treatment options, right? So somebody, obviously, aside from like preventative, aside from making sure you air your feet out, like not sitting around in wet socks, that kind of thing. And, if you do develop athlete's foot or some kind of foot fungus, what are some common treatment options, I guess, both over the counter and prescription? And when should somebody actually come to see you over this?
So for athlete's foot, which presents on the skin, a lot of the over-the-counter stuff does help. But most people they don't use it consistently. And you should come and see me if, you've tried a bunch of different antifungals over the counter and it's not working. Sometimes you need like a scraping of the skin. Maybe you have a specific fungus that the typical over-the-counter medication is not treating. So that's when and sometimes an antifungal on its own is not enough for the skin because it can be very itchy. So I do a combination of steroid cream with an antifungal cream to help the itch and kind of calm down the itching and help the fungus kind of get killed faster. Whereas toenail fungus, in my experience, nothing over the counter seems to work. I see a ton of patients every day with toenail fungus, and the problem with the over-the-counter meds is that they cannot penetrate the nail because the toenail is 10 times harder and thicker than the skin. Yeah. So your average over-the-counter cream cannot penetrate the thick layers of the nail. So that's why there are medications that I can prescribe orally that'll help kill the fungus from the inside, that are safe as long as you don't have any other medical issues. And I also have, prescription and non-prescription, top of the line topical products that do help debride and kind of thin out the nail to help the medicine penetrate deeper to have a more effective way of killing the toenail fungus.
Are there any natural home remedies? Like I'm sitting around with my foot covered in fungus. I could stick my foot in a tub of vinegar or something like that. Yes. Or like what works good around the house? What are some things people could do around the home if they're just trying to find an in-home remedy?
So a good natural homeopath, home remedies are vinegar soaks for both the toenails and the athlete's foot. You basically do 1 part vinegar, 3 parts water. It doesn't matter which vinegar you use. You just want to dilute it so you don't burn your skin, and you soak your feet in that for about 20 minutes a day, and it does help kill a lot of the fungus in your toenails and your skin. Another home remedy for the toenails, I do like tea tree oil. Like if you want to use the essential oil, tea tree oil, you could just put a couple of drops on each toenail every day, and it does help kill a lot of the fungus. But again, with these things, you just have to be very, very consistent with it. And apply it daily. Another home remedy for toenail fungus is, believe it or not, Vicks Vapor Rub.
Really?
Works. Yeah, because the menthol and the camphor in it, it actually helps kill a lot of the fungus. And some people like to use I actually tried it myself. If you mix Listerine or mouthwash with the vinegar and make a soak, it actually helps peel off all the skin that looks like athlete's foot much better than just vinegar on its own.
Mixing up medicinal potions in Dr. Lauren's lab at home.
I actually was reading up about it, and it does work. Now, some patients. Now, the other thing is people don't have the patience to do that, so they come to me for more, quicker, effective, medical, fast ways to do it. And there's pills, there's topicals, there's lasers. I also have fungus laser, to help debulk the nail a little bit, help penetration of the medicines, help everything work more efficiently. And then even after we killed all the fungus completely, it can always come back. So I'm always very strict with preventative measures.
Yeah, prevention is key. So long-term complications, right? Let's just say hypothetically, I got some foot fungus and I'm not very proactive and I just sit around and it festers and it festers. Is there a point where I all of a sudden now I have gangrene and my foot has to be amputated?
No.
Like what are the long-term complications of not doing anything?
So there aren't any long-term complications. The only thing, like the most severe things I've ever seen happen with untreated athlete's foot is it can get very inflamed and then it can get infected. Like I've seen athlete's foot, get very inflamed because they itch it and scratch it, and then they cause, patients get a skin infection, and then you have like this combined like fungus with, cellulitis or, infected skin, and that's when it gets really bad. I mean, it's annoying to the patient, but, you just need, more medications to kind of calm that down. But you really should not neglect it. You should definitely, if you want to get rid of it, I always say you have to kill the fungus. It needs to die.
You hear that, everyone out there? If you're listening to this and you've been looking at that foot and it's like black and purple and green and funky, go see your podiatrist. Go see Dr. Lauren. Let her come check you out. Get a handle on this before you have to get your foot amputated. No, I'm just joking.
No amputation. There is one complication with toenail fungus. Sometimes it can make the nail so thick. Like I've seen patients with like their toenail is so thick with the fungus, it's probably maybe 3 or 4 millimeters thick, like this. And
you need a bone saw to cut the toenail off.
No, so yes and no, but the biggest issue with that, it actually, when it's so thick, it causes a lot of pain, and then it's very uncomfortable in a shoe, and it presses like on your toe and causes a lot of pain. So it can cause a lot of discomfort if you don't treat it or at least keep your nails filed and trimmed. But yeah, it can cause other things and other issues. I've seen patients with like really bad fungal nails that they're so thick and they neglected it. It actually caused an ulcer in their toe. Like it grew like thick and curly and then it grew like back into the skin. I had some older gentlemen and it actually dug into the side of the toe, the nail, because it was so thick.
You get that ingrown toenail that goes into the toe, and it's very uncomfortable.
Nail, but basically it was like thick, and then it curled like back in on itself and started digging. So poor guy, had a little ulcer, but we fixed it.
That's what you do, right? That's what you do.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like you definitely shouldn't ignore it because it can spread and it can. It's not cancerous or anything like that, but it is something that can cause a lot of discomfort, itching, pain in shoes and things like that. So you definitely want to treat it before it gets severe.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's the old adage, right? All right, we'll leave it at that. Dr. Lauren, always a pleasure seeing you. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
All right. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch everyone next time on the next episode of the LMD Podiatry Podcast. Everyone take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to the LMD Podiatry Podcast. For more information, visit lmdpodiatry.com. That's lmdpodiatry.com. Or call 954-680-7133.